Hello YouTube. As you notice, I like sitting at the edge of my seat. I know that my subscribers, the vast amount of subscribers that I've gained in these few weeks, they're at the edge of their seats waiting for my next video. Well, here it is. And for those of you who are incapable of sensing humor, I'm just kidding, because I know that hardly anybody has been watching my videos, but I appreciate those who have. And I have come to quickly find out that the Christian community here on YouTube is not silenced. We just don't get as many views. So we need to remedy that some way. I don't know exactly how, but it will happen. I was telling someone today, though, that I am encouraged that I get kind of discouraged when I log in and I see the most favorited, and I frequently see an atheist video and it's got 3,000 views, but then I look at most viewed and I see some idiot dancing and it's got 3 million. So I know I've got to keep things in perspective. So what's the video about today? I really don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm making stuff up as I go along. Seriously though, I do want to talk a little bit about why I became Catholic. Wow, that's a big thing, because I've quickly found out in perusing the videos of fellow Christian YouTubers who feel like I do, that they have to speak out against the blatant atheistic mindset that seems to fester here at YouTube. The vast majority of these people are evangelical Christians or Protestants or Christians of some other flavor than Catholicism. And I've noticed, and I hope you guys don't take it the wrong way, that I've noticed, if not you, but often in the comments of some of your videos, there is you know, an anti-Catholic slant to a lot of what's going on. So I just wanted to take a moment and start maybe a short series on what led me to the Catholic Church. Now, to understand why I became Catholic, you have to understand a little bit about me. I love history. Love it. I absolutely love history. I majored in history in college. That's my degree. Still love to read history books. But I was raised in a Protestant tradition that didn't really have many roots in church history. I was raised Pentecostal, and although I greatly appreciate how I was raised, the things I was taught, and I thank God that I was raised in a Christian home, it's just a fact that the churches that I was raised in did not have great respect or knowledge of church history. So up until I was around 25, I suppose, I'm 31 now, I had little to no real good background on church history. Now when I say no background, I mean it. For Pentecostals, or for myself, you had the early church, who quickly went apostate, and then Martin Luther came along, did some kind of reforming, but he didn't really get it all, you know what I'm saying? He got there, but he didn't get all the way there. So up until the late 19th century with the holiness movements in the United States, and then in the early 20th century with the Pentecostal movements, with the repouring out of the Holy Spirit, so to speak, in the Pentecostal churches, then, you know, in the Pentecostal realm, this really was not, there really was not an apostolic church in the world. Now that may be a hard pill to swallow for some people, especially because modern Pentecostalism has made many inroads into mainstream evangelical Protestantism. So much so that a lot of the animosity that I grew up with as a young Pentecostal, both animosity from other Protestants toward Pentecostalism and from within Pentecostalism directed toward other Protestants. A lot of that has been alleviated to a great degree. It's quite an amazing thing to happen within my lifetime. I've mentioned on YouTube, I was an atheist for a short time in my life. As a young kid, I grew up. A lot of questions that weren't answered. I was intellectually curious, but stunted. And as I got older and started experimenting and seeing a wider world than the one I was brought up in, I quickly came to a point, I was around 19 years old, where I felt, and it was a legitimate feeling, it wasn't something I manufactured, that there was many problems with religion and Christianity, and so I began a journey that eventually took me to atheism. And I feel it was an intellectual journey. It was not a journey that was an emotional journey, but I do believe it had emotional undercurrents, especially in regards to morals and discipline. And now I'm not saying that the discipline I was raised with and the morals I was raised with were the perfect ones, but in a lot of ways I was rebelling. But it was not an instance of out and out rebellion. It was more subtle. And so my journey to atheism definitely was an intellectual journey. I mean, I put a lot of time in reading and studying, but underlying all that, I really believe, looking back, that there were other motives at work. So here I was in college, an atheist. I don't have to explain myself to you to justify my atheism. I was an atheist, an unqualified atheist. But it wasn't long until shortly after I graduated college that I began having doubts about my atheism. Wow, look at there. And there were a combination of things, and I'm not going to say my journey back into faith was as intellectual as my journey away from faith, because faith had been such a part of my life. The draw toward faith was always there, I think. In a lot of ways, I drowned it out with booze and late nights in college, but I think the draw to what I was raised in, the traditions of Christianity was always there. So I made the journey back into faith, back into the Pentecostal church, and for some years I stayed in there. Okay, fast forward a little while. I was a youth minister in a Pentecostal church. Now, it was a very strict Pentecostal church, and the associate pastor asked me to read the church fathers. I was like, church who? Who are these church fathers people? He didn't call it that. He gave me some names, example. And he said, I want you to look in there and find some examples of their moral teachings. Like, he really wanted me to find things that were parallel to some of the things that the very strict Pentecostal sects that I grew up in taught, like, women's dress, women's appearance, avoiding certain things in society. So I began to look in the church fathers. Now, cue the evil music. The church fathers. I'll leave my story alone here. This is part one of my journey to Catholicism. I don't want to be the amazing atheist and talk for 30 minutes. But that is part one. Ended at my sticking my big toe into the ocean that is church history.